Thanks for being with us. Welcome to our Ideal Chiller course for refrigeration and air conditioning technicians who are beginning to interact with these very important machines in industrial refrigeration. No more time to lose. Let's go to the first class. On the screen, we have the schematics that represent on the left the chilled water circuit that will condition the chiller, and on the right, the refrigeration circuit that makes the chiller work. On the left side, we have the primary pump. The primary pump is the name given to the pump responsible for taking the water to the evaporator or to the chiller cooler so that heat exchange occurs in the chiller evaporator. The primary pump is responsible for taking the water to the chiller. Below that, we have the secondary pump. The secondary pump is in charge of carrying the water to the application, that is, taking the water to the point where cooling is needed. The secondary pump delivers the required flow and pressure to bring the water to the desired location. That is what we have on the left, the chilled water circuit. On the right, we have the refrigeration circuit, which we will explain next. This is a conventional cooling circuit. If we observe, we have a compressor, a condenser, an expansion valve, and an evaporator, just like in a traditional refrigeration system. The refrigeration circuit works like any conventional system, where the compressor is responsible for making the refrigerant flow throughout the entire circuit. The evaporator is in thermal communication with the water circuit, but not in direct contact. Water and refrigerant will never mix in a chiller. They travel through separate pipes, but exchange heat through thermal interaction. This heat exchange happens inside the casing called the cooler. Inside the cooler, we have the evaporator of the refrigeration circuit and the pipes carrying the water that needs to be cooled. What happens is the following. The water enters the chiller at a higher temperature through the primary pump and reaches the cooler. Through thermal communication, not physical contact, the cold refrigerant absorbs heat from the water. The refrigerant, having a lower temperature, cools the water because heat naturally flows from the warmer circuit to the colder one. This transfer of heat from the water loop to the refrigeration loop is what allows the generation of chilled water. In this first class of our basic chiller course for beginners, it is very common to talk about the term delta T. Delta T represents the difference between the inlet water temperature entering the chiller and the outlet water temperature leaving it. For example, in an air conditioning chilled water system, the typical delta T is 5 degrees Celsius or 10 degrees Fahrenheit. If the inlet is 12 degrees Celsius, subtracting 5 degrees Celsius gives an outlet of 7 degrees Celsius. In Fahrenheit, an inlet of 54 degrees Fahrenheit and an outlet of 44 degrees Fahrenheit would represent a delta T of 10 degrees Fahrenheit. This chiller plant is designed so that heat from the water circuit passes to the refrigeration circuit. That exchange occurs in the cooler casing, where the evaporator is located. Now, what happens to that heat? The heat absorbed by the refrigerant in the evaporator must be removed from the system. The refrigerant leaves the evaporator because it is cold and at low pressure. Low pressure means low temperature, which allows it to continue absorbing heat from the water. During this process, the refrigerant undergoes a change of state. It enters the evaporator as a liquid and leaves as a vapor because it has absorbed heat. This phase change is essential because when a substance is boiling or evaporating, its temperature remains nearly constant, which is exactly what we need in order to keep cooling the water efficiently. The refrigerant vapor then enters the compressor. The compressor generates suction, creating low pressure at the inlet and high pressure at the outlet. This high pressure is necessary to move the refrigerant through the system and prepare it for condensation. After compression, the refrigerant moves to the condenser. In the condenser, the refrigerant releases the heat it absorbed and returns from a vapor state back to a liquid state. High pressure is required in the condenser because condensation occurs more easily at higher pressures. Once condensed, the refrigerant leaves the condenser as a high-pressure liquid. However, before returning to the evaporator, the pressure must be reduced. This is done by the expansion valve, which lowers both the pressure and the temperature of the refrigerant. At the outlet of the expansion valve, we again have cold, low-pressure refrigerant ready to enter the evaporator and repeat the cycle. If you want to acquire more advanced knowledge about chillers and industrial refrigeration plants, visit mundochiller.com and take our private training programs for professionals in the sector. Every month we open new courses with new groups. To summarize this first class, a chiller is basically a refrigeration circuit in which the evaporator exchanges heat with a water circuit. Heat is removed from the water, transferred to the refrigerant, and finally released into the environment through the condenser. In practical terms, there are two main heat exchanges. First, from the chilled water to the refrigerant, and then from the refrigerant to the surrounding environment. A chiller consists of four basic components: evaporator, compressor, condenser, and expansion valve. This is a basic circuit, but it is the basis of all chilled water systems used in air conditioning and industrial refrigeration. If you want to continue learning and develop more advanced skills in chillers and industrial refrigeration systems, visit mundochiller.com and enroll in our professional training programs. Every month, new online courses are available.